Hey guys, so this is the episode on creating adventures. So this could be a one shot, could be first session, could be one of many plot hooks you're frameworking for a longer campaign. In this case, it's going to be episode one of a new campaign, potentially. It's going to introduce them to my world, which we discussed in the last episode. It's going to introduce you to, it wants to introduce them to what's unique and what the hook of that world is. So in my case, it's a very heavily elementally formed world. There's bleed from the planes, so the bleed from the different elemental planes as well as the Feywild and the Shadowfell. So want to make sure I get that into the game. Make sure the look and the feel shows that off straight away. So the way I do adventure design is in three parts: Act 1, Act 2 and Act 3, like any good book or film or whatever. Act 1 is about introduction to it, the giving of the quest or the giving of information. Act 2 is investigation and discovery, so finding about where you need to go, what that happened, how it's happened, find out who has done it. And then Act 3 is resolution and rewards. So resolution is get to the final encounter, deal with the encounter, go and collect the rewards, or the belief of the rewards from the from whoever sent you on this quest in the first place. That sounds like Act 3 is actually the source of the three. I actually find it tends to be the one which takes the most work because that's where most of the conflict and such like will take place. So there's more planning involved in that sort of thing. So what I'm going to do, we'll talk about each of these acts and I'll put some notes down and start doing what I would do to plan the session. So first off, I tend to start at the end, work out where I want the players to be at the end of it, and then we can discuss how they're going to get there. So in this case, we're going to do Act 3. Act 3 first, and I'm just going to put it in the centre there. We'll move it out the way later. So Act 3, if you remember going back to the setting information, we did a group of children gone missing in a nearby forest. Fey bleed or shadow bleed. We were still thinking about that, maybe one of the elements. So children held by. So, got a couple of options here. We could go with a minor element or a fey creature. I'm thinking I want to give them an option to be able to socially interact out of it, not just fight. So I'm actually going to go with a nymph of some sort of shape or description. We'll look at the nymphs. There are nymphs which are elementally mixed with element as well as the fey. So I'm going to probably go with elemental fey nymph of some shape or description. We'll decide which one later. So thought at the moment is this nymph found them in the woods, lost, and she brought them back to her house, her home, her house, and she's looking after them. She's got motherly instincts. She hasn't got her own children. So she's found some to become become her children. So we know the conflict's going to take place in a nymph's home. Be that a house, be that probably going to be a grove. There's going to be children held there, potentially not against their will, maybe magically, suggestions, etc. But they aren't going to be happy if you kill the nymph. But that allows you to resolution of the situation could be done via a number of methods. 1. Fight. Killing the nymph. Or talking to the nymph. as a couple of options. So potentially you'll be able to social your way out of this site. Potentially not. We'll see. Rewards session. And this is where this could be interesting. So whoever sent them. So NPC who sent adventurers to rescue So, rather than the big bad being the nymph, actually, somebody in the village has made a deal with this nymph for power of knowledge or some special items, something. Well, we can. So, in actual fact, when you go back to the village with the children, potentially they already know that the nymph. This is the nymph was it. I won't say totally innocent in it because obviously they've taken children, but potentially isn't that bad, isn't that evil. But this guy, whoever this guy is, potentially is. So potentially there could be a fight actually in the village with this person as the big bad, and we'll keep it a bit more potentially. I'm not saying we will do that, but it's an idea. So I'm not going to put natural final fight, potentially the NPC, rescue, reward, give money to, and home. So what I'm thinking is we're talking about potentially long-term campaign. We're going to want somewhere to stay, and the inns, it gets a bit complicated. So I'm thinking they just give them money and they allow them to take the home of the NPC that basically sold their kids, the kids to the nymph, as a basic operation. So from there, you can expand out. It gives them a basic operation. It gives them a reason to want to be involved in this village. So that is the basic start point of this. Obviously, we need to flesh out a map. We need to flesh out the fight scene. So at the moment, map-wise for this, I'm thinking for that 3 maps. 3 maps. We'll need a nymph's home. Depending on the sort of nymph, we'll decide on the home. I'm thinking fiery grotto. Grotto in the Fey Forest. So I'm thinking a fiery grotto, and yes, I know that's not spelling right, and no, you'll get used to me after a while. I don't spell right. This is my notes. I don't need to. So fiery fox. So there could be some interactions with the landscape, because maybe random spurts of fire come out, that sort of thing. So some deck saves, as well as the nymph themselves. Village square fight. Scene. The slave NPC is confronted. Maybe outside an inn, maybe in an inn. Classic bar fight, potentially. We'll village square bar fight. we'll see which one we'll see which one we decide, because that somewhat depends on the players. If we have a lot of range guys, maybe we want to do it outside. If we've got a lot of melee players, we may want to do it inside. So that map might happen actually once we got session zeros out. Sorry, session zeros out of the way. So we got these two maps there. So that is basically Act 3, the start of Act 3, done. So we need, the only other thing would be finding the nymph. So that could be part of Act 2, could be part of Act 3. We'll see where we feel comfortable. I actually think it's going to be part of Act 2, because you're talking two big fights there. So that is probably Act 3. That's probably the last hour of the game sewn up in just those two fights. Half an hour fight is, and the RP around those is probably fair. So next up we have Act. So once I've got an idea of where they want to be, I want to figure out how they get there. So that could either be Act 1 and Act 2. I tend to do bit together because I sort of start planning with my thoughts and where I want. So Act 1. Arrive in village as caravan guards. Payment. So they also get, they're going to get paid. They'll get paid right at the start for a job that they've already done. So how are they going to find out about these missing children? Children didn't come home yesterday. Something. We're going to pay something. These are going to be 9 to basically pre-teens, but they're old enough that they are expected to do some work around the village, collecting wild fruit, berries, whatever, maybe firewood. There's a group of families. Where would the worthy families be? They're not going to be working, let's put it that way. Neighbouring stores. So potentially neighbours of the families could tell the adventurers where to find them. What would the local local forces do? We already said this is going to be in border no man's land between two kingdoms. So there isn't going to be a guard funded by a king or no the local lord. There isn't one. The villages also means they don't get to pay taxes, so benefits there. So there isn't a local situation. Something like this happens, a group of people get together and go and try and rescue them. In this case, maybe they're worried about it being it was a big group, so they want to hire somebody. So they basically agree on hiring this group. So we were talking about this slaver NPC. So slaver NPC. Also, remember, anything like slavery, sexual interactions, etc., make sure your players are okay with that sort of thing. I would normally go through session 0 of, is there anything you do not want me to interact with? So if there's somebody does come back and go, don't want to deal with slavery, don't want to deal with that sort of thing, drop it out, they just become lost children in the forest, and we lose the slavery angle. And we will have to tweak the final bites, but we make the nymph fight bigger and grander, because in actual fact it is the final fight. So is general store owner. So I'm thinking he is the big general store owner. He gets goods. He's the only one who gets goods coming in. So potentially this caravan they've brought in was for him. Lies in the village. He wasn't born in the village. Just a thought. Have him somewhat different. Have him. People don't like him, but they respect him. But because he's not liked, he doesn't care about the children of his neighbours. Potentially, it's just a thought. He's an outsider, so I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. We'll see if it goes. So they arrive in the village. They get paid. They probably go and talk to this slaver NPC to get paid, because it was his goods that were doing transport, and he's probably going to pay them. The Wagoneers take payment off him as well. Local inn. The Wagoneers go and spend. Wagoneers going and spend. The local yokel children, the Wagoneers don't care about. It's not their problem. So at the moment we've got potentially an NPC who will go and so maybe local range, local forester, huntsman potentially. More info to the group. Okay, so that potentially is investigation. So rather than going into Act 1, I'll actually go into Act 2. So that's one place they can potentially get information. They've seen the nymphs. The nymphs. They know there's nymphs in the so. So nymphs in the forest, they don't drown more trees than they need to or hunt more animals than they need to survive. So find items of detergent. So if they were going to go and collect so I'm thinking went to collect wild fruit, berries, maybe mushrooms. So full of picked wild berry fruits. So they can find a start point, and then they can potentially track from there. Wild animals, attack them. So we want a midway combat. So I'm thinking wild animals, jump them. Forest animals, we'll have a look and we'll see what we come in. In fact, no, because why would you wouldn't send children into there? So no, not going to do wild animals, because if you had wild animals that were aggressive in this, you wouldn't send your children into the forest. So that doesn't work. So Nymph sets up traps and puzzles, maybe a maze. So I'm thinking this is going to be quite a thinking one. So not too much combat at this point. So I'm thinking stuff that causes you to get lost in the forest. Maybe the odd traps. Potentially a trap which we could have some fate, some minor fate creature slowing down, so some fey animals or something that the nymphs got to slow them down, stop them, get them to back off. Some traps and puzzles. So at this point, map-wise, village map with surrounding area. No more than 10 miles. I don't want a massive area to start with. Needs a fey forest. As we are talking a village, they need a water supply for a reason to be there. Potentially river crossing. Only one nearby. Be that a forward bridge. I quite like that as an idea, because that also means later on, if this conflict between the kingdoms come in, this could be a major strategic point for those kingdoms. So there's going to be issues with the two kingdoms wanting this village, and the village having to defend themselves against both sides, or managing to find a way of keeping the fight out of the village, out of their lands. So maybe in map. Happens. So yeah, definitely village map. Maybe a common room map potentially. NPCs, villagers. Store owners. Slaver NPC, store owner. That's probably about it at the moment. Maybe the photo. What do we need in here? Map wise. Forest maps. Puzzle design. So some sort of puzzle that they have to work out. We can go into that. And what I tend to do is I tend to do a real puzzle which the players can work out, but I also will let them just make a DC roll if they spend lots of time on it and just can't work it out themselves. But I do like giving them physical things that they can buy. But that's probably about it for the maps there. So we're not talking. So that is basically the 3 acts. So let's get if I was the players, let's see what we're going to do. There's timings. So this is something I think about, and it's not something I've seen discussed by other people. Is you've got a 4-hour session. How does these 3 sections break down into that time? So arrival and investigation. Whenever somebody arrives in a new town, you're going to look around the town. So I would normally give myself 30 minutes to do that, just so there's a bit of time. I may extend that to 45 because we'll do that. There's going to be the payment and everything. There's going to be the first meet of the NPCs. And you can have that investigate the discovery of these ones. So Act 1. Talk to parents. Maybe half an hour. Probably not half an hour. It's probably more like 15 minutes. But always, I say 2 to 4 hours. So I aim for 4 hours, and then anything below that, because I've overestimated, normally brings it down to. They're the 2 things they've got to do in this time. So the first act, about an hour and 15 hour, maybe which is probably about right. So Act 2, hunt the 30 minutes. 45 minutes, because that includes potentially talking to the huntsman or forester or whatever, finding it, potentially having the first, potentially trap him. Traps on the items with flame magic, just to cause the players to get a bit of surprise. Nothing major, just something. We'll think about that later. Fight with Fae Minor Fae. 15 minutes, 20 minutes. $10 probably for that. Probably 10 minutes for that actually. Puzzle. 10 minutes. At 3. Nymph. Deal with the nymph, because it may not be a fight. Half an hour. Escort children back to the village. 10 minutes. That's something which I haven't put in here. Let's put that in here. So part of that 3 could also be escorting the children back. Depending on time constraints, that could be cut. If we've gone on to getting close to the 4-hour time skirt thing, you could cut that out. It's something which gives you flexibility. Final fight in town. 50 minutes, probably 25 minutes. Rewards and RP, half an hour. So these are very rough, and to be honest, some of these are probably longer than these because we are talking low level characters here, so the fights aren't going to go really. But I also want to give myself time because may have a new player. I don't know. So we're looking about an hour and a half for Act 1, about an hour for Act 2. And then about an hour and a half for Act 3. So we're looking at that 3-hour, 3.5 hour mark, which is probably about where we want to be. So that is my rough planning for an adventure. Next stage will be come up with some names, come up with some NPCs, come up with the maps. Because that's the start point. You now need to flesh it out and work out what you're going to do with it. But I could quite probably, personally, could take what I've just written there and wing it on the day of the session. I have lots of maps, which that'll be something we discuss in the next one. I don't just build all my own maps. I have lots of I can show you Google searches. I can show you Patreon accounts. I can show you people who do this stuff for a living. Where sometimes it's just worth spending that little bit of money and going, I'll have that map. Don't need to worry about it then. So that will be next session. We'll be looking at the maps and go from there. We still need a name of the world. That's something which I still haven't come up with. Need something that's focused on the elementals. And then we'll probably start looking at sessions, and I'm also going to probably start tying in session 0 conversations with people, because I've got enough to get people excited and see what else I need to flesh out. Because stuff like cosmology, the gods, I don't need gods. If I don't have a cleric or a paladin, I don't need to worry about the gods at the moment. I need a shrine in the town, in the village. That's probably about it. But if we have a cleric, we need to flesh that out. But the cleric player will help me with that and build up. But for now, that's it. Hopefully people found that useful. And I'll see you next time. But for now, goodbye.